I'm Isabella Reed, 28, and all I ever wanted was love and recognition from my family. But before I share the moment that changed everything, you need to understand how it all began, what it was like growing up unseen. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. I was raised in Toledo, Ohio, in a middle-class neighborhood where appearances mattered more than anything. My parents, Joseph and Ruth, cared deeply about looking successful. The house was immaculate, the yard flawless, and every holiday card looked like a portrait of the perfect family. But beneath that picture-perfect facade, the truth was clear. Cheryl, my sister, was the star. She was their pride. Charismatic, ambitious, destined for greatness. By high school, they were already boasting about her future as a lawyer. Me? I was the quiet dreamer who loved art and design. My passion didn't fit their version of success, so it was dismissed as unimportant. I'll never forget being 10 years old, coming home with a certificate from an art contest I just won. I ran into the living room, beaming with excitement, clutching that paper like treasure. My mom glanced at it, muttered a distracted good job, then turned back to arranging Cheryl's latest debate medals on the wall. My certificate wilted in my hands while her ribbons sparkled under the light. That was the moment it sunk in. Her victories mattered. Mine didn't. As the years went on, the pattern only deepened. At 14, I had my first school art show. I prepared for weeks, invited my parents, reminded them over and over. On the night of the show, I stood in the gym surrounded by my drawings, watching other kids pose proudly with their parents. Mine never showed up. They were across the state at Cheryl's debate competition. Strangers praised my work, but the approval I craved most was absent. That night, I overheard my mom on the phone saying, "Cheryl is going places!" Not my daughters, just Cheryl. High school wasn't any different. Cheryl got a new laptop for tournaments. I got a hand-me-down sketchpad. When she came home from college, it was a celebration, special dinners, everyone hanging on her every word. Meanwhile, I was told to clean up. Once I tried to share that I'd been accepted into an art program at a local gallery, a huge milestone for me. My dad cut me off mid-sentence to brag about Cheryl's law school internship. My dreams were invisible. The only person who ever truly believed in me was my art teacher, Mrs. Chen. She recognized my talent when no one else did, helped me build a portfolio, and pushed me to pursue design despite my parents' dismissal. She told me my art was worth something, even when my own family didn't. By my senior year, I'd stopped begging for my parents' approval and poured everything into my work. With Mrs. Chen's guidance, I earned a scholarship to study graphic design. When I told my parents, their reaction was flat. "That's nice, but be practical." Just weeks later, they took out a loan for Cheryl's law school, calling it an investment in the family. The message was obvious. Cheryl was worth sacrificing for. I wasn't. At 18, I got my first real breakthrough. A gallery in Toledo invited me to exhibit my work. It was the dream I'd been waiting for. I sent my parents another invitation, clinging to the hope they'd finally show up. They didn't. Instead, they threw a party to celebrate Cheryl's law school acceptance. That night, as strangers admired my art, I felt the same hollow pride I'd carried my whole life. Others saw my worth, but to my own family, I was still invisible. That night, standing alone after the exhibition closed, I made a decision. I would no longer chase their validation. I'd build my own future, even if they never cared to see it. I didn't know then how much that resolve would be tested. I didn't know that years later, I'd still be hoping, against all evidence, that they might finally see me. But first, I had to leave home and discover what it felt like to be seen. Leaving home for college felt like taking my first real breath. I enrolled at a university in Ohio, majoring in graphic design, determined to carve my own path. For the first time in my life, I wasn't standing in Cheryl's shadow. I was just Isabella, and I could be whoever I wanted to be. Early on, I met Michael Foster in my Intro to Art class. He was a teaching assistant, a few years older than me, with kind eyes and a quiet confidence that put me at ease. He saw potential in my work, real potential. We'd spend hours in the studio after class discussing design trends, dissecting famous campaigns, debating color theory. He'd push me to refine my projects, to think deeper about my creative choices. "Why did you choose that font?" he'd ask. "What feeling are you trying to evoke?" No one had ever asked me those questions before. No one had cared enough to dig into my process. Around the same time, I met Nicole Hayes. She was a photography major with a sharp wit and endless energy. We bonded immediately. Nicole had this way of calling out injustice that I'd never learned. She was fierce and unapologetic. When I showed her my work, she'd critique it, honestly, pushing me to be better. When I doubted myself, she'd slam her coffee mug on the table and tell me I was killing it. With Michael and Nicole, I finally felt like I belonged. My first year was tough but exhilarating. I pulled all-nighters perfecting logos and layouts, driven by this desperate need to prove myself. My professors noticed. One of them connected me with a local design studio for an internship. By my junior year, I was juggling classes and freelance gigs, creating branding for small businesses. It wasn't glamorous. I designed menus for diners and logos for family-owned shops, but every project felt like a step forward. I'd send my parents updates, hoping they'd care. They didn't. My mom called once not to ask about my work, but to compare my social life to Cheryl's networking events. "Cheryl's making such important connections at law school. Are you keeping up socially?" I wanted to scream that I was building a career, that I was creating things that mattered, but I knew she wouldn't hear me. She never did. In my senior year, everything changed. I landed a contract to design a campaign for a regional advertising agency. It was my first real taste of professional success. I spent months crafting visuals, tweaking every detail until it was perfect. When the campaign launched, it got praise in a local industry blog. My name was attached. I was over the moon. I emailed my parents the link to the article. My hands shook as I typed. Maybe this would be big enough. Maybe they would finally see me. I waited for their response, checking my inbox obsessively. When my dad finally replied, my heart leapt. Then I read his message. "That's nice, but have you talked to Cheryl? She's working on a big case." I showed Nicole the email. She read it, then looked at me with fury and sadness in her eyes. "They don't deserve you," she said, shaking her head. Those words should have comforted me, but they just made the hurt more real. Michael was different. When I showed him the campaign, he took me out for coffee and spent an hour asking about my creative process. He celebrated every detail, the color palette, the typography, the way I had balanced multiple brand messages. He wasn't just being supportive, he got it. He understood what I was trying to create. That year, Michael and I started dating. His belief in me made me bolder. I took on bigger projects, like rebranding a chain of local coffee shops. The work was demanding, but it paid off. By graduation, I had a portfolio that landed me a full-time job at a mid-sized agency in Toledo. I was 22, building a career I loved. I thought maybe, just maybe, my parents might finally take notice. Nicole became my lifeline. We'd meet up at a diner near campus where she'd rant about how unfair my parents were. "You're killing it, Isabella," she'd say, slamming her coffee mug down. They're too blind to see it. She pushed me to focus on my own goals, and I did. I took on more freelance work, designing websites for startups and posters for local festivals. Each project built my confidence, and I started to care less about my parents' approval. But that's a lie, isn't it? Deep down, it still hurt. I wanted them to see me just once the way they saw Cheryl. I wanted them to be proud. I wanted to matter to them. By my mid-20s, I was thriving professionally. My agency promoted me to lead designer on a major account, a national retailer needing a full rebrand. It was a 6-figure contract, a huge deal for someone my age. This was it. This had to be big enough. I called my parents. My mom picked up, sounding distracted. I told her about the project, my voice shaking with excitement and vulnerability. I heard her pause. Then she said the words that would change everything. "That sounds like a lot of work. Have you checked in with Cheryl? She's been so busy." I hung up without saying goodbye. I sat there in my apartment, phone still in my hand, and something inside me finally broke. Not in a dramatic way, just quietly, like a door closing. Michael found me sitting in silence. He didn't ask questions. He just held me while I processed years of accumulated hurt. That call was the turning point. That was the moment I stopped trying to earn what would never be freely given. And that was when Michael asked me to marry him. One evening, a few weeks after that devastating phone call, Michael and I walked along the Mosey River. The sun was setting, painting the water gold and pink. We'd walked this path dozens of times, but something felt different that night. Michael stopped and turned to me, and I saw it in his eyes before he even spoke. "Isabella," he said, his voice soft but steady. He pulled out a simple ring. "I see you. I've always seen you. Will you marry me?" I said yes through tears. Yes to a man who celebrated my victories. Yes to building something my parents never gave me, a family built on genuine love. Yes to being seen. We started planning a small wedding at a riverside restaurant in Toledo, a place we both loved for its warm ambiance and intimate atmosphere. I threw myself into the details, designing our invitations by hand. Each brushstroke felt like hope, like love made visible. For weeks, I was happy, genuinely, fully happy. But there was one decision I couldn't avoid. Should I invite my family? Michael left it up to me. "Whatever you need," he said. Nicole was more direct. "They don't deserve to be there," she told me. "But I understand if you need to give them one more chance." One more chance. That's what it was, wasn't it? Despite everything, despite years of disappointment, I couldn't help but hope that my wedding would be different, that this milestone would finally matter to them. So, I sent invitations to Joseph, Ruth, and Cheryl. I designed theirs with extra care, choosing paper I knew my mother would appreciate, using elegant fonts that would appeal to my father's sense of propriety. I called to follow up. My mom didn't answer, so I left a voicemail. "Mom, I wanted to make sure you got the invitation. It would mean everything if you could come. I know it's a small ceremony, but it's important to me. Please let me know." My voice cracked on that last part, and I hated myself for it. My dad texted back, "We'll try to make it." "We'll try." Not, "We'll be there." Not, "We wouldn't miss it." Just, "We'll try." Like my wedding was a minor obligation they might fit in if nothing better came up. Cheryl didn't respond at all. I found out later through a mutual cousin that she'd gotten engaged around the same time, to Jeffrey Coleman, an entrepreneur from a wealthy family. She was too busy planning her own engagement party to acknowledge mine. As my wedding day approached, I oscillated between excitement and dread. Michael was patient with my mood swings. "Whatever happens," he told me, "we're getting married. That's what matters." Nicole was more practical. She'd already planned where to seat my family, close enough to be visible, but not in the front row. "Just in case they show up late," she said, but we both knew what she really meant. Just in case they disappoint you again. 3 days before the wedding, my mom called. I answered on the second ring. "Mom?" "Isabella, we need to talk about the wedding." Her tone was businesslike, like she was discussing a meeting agenda. "Is everything okay? Do you need the address again? The time?" There was a pause. The kind of pause that lasts a heartbeat too long. The kind of pause that warns you something terrible is coming. "We're not coming." The words didn't register at first. "What?" "We're not coming to your wedding, Isabella. This is a trivial event for someone at the bottom, and we're busy with Cheryl's engagement." Trivial event. Someone at the bottom. The words hit me like physical blows. I couldn't breathe. What do you mean?" "Cheryl's engagement party is the same weekend. We're flying to Hawaii to celebrate with her and Jeffrey's family. It's a big moment for us." She said it so casually, like it was obvious that Cheryl's engagement party would take priority over my wedding. "But Mom, it's my wedding. You said you'd try to make it." "We did try, Isabella, but this is important. Cheryl is making such a wonderful match. You understand." I didn't understand. I would never understand. But I also couldn't speak. I hung up without saying goodbye. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. Michael found me sitting on the floor of our apartment staring at nothing. He sat down next to me and pulled me into his arms. I didn't cry. I was beyond tears. I just sat there, numb, while he held me. "They're not coming," I finally said. "They called my wedding a trivial event for someone at the bottom." Michael's arms tightened around me. "Then we'll make sure the people who matter are there. We'll make it ours." And we did. On my wedding day, I walked down the aisle in a dress I designed myself, feeling Michael's steady, loving gaze on me. Nicole was there, snapping photos and cheering louder than anyone. George and Diane, Michael's parents, embraced me like I was their own daughter. Their warmth was everything I'd always wanted from Joseph and Ruth. But as I stood at the altar, I couldn't help glancing at those empty chairs, the ones I'd reserved for my family, the ones that stayed empty all night. The reception was beautiful. Friends and Michael's family filled the room with laughter and love. I felt cherished, but incomplete. After the final dance, after the last guest left, I checked my phone. One last hope, one last pathetic hope, that maybe they'd sent a message, a congratulations, an apology, anything. Instead, I found a social media notification from my mother. My stomach dropped as I clicked it. It was a video from Hawaii. My parents, Cheryl and Jeffrey, on a pristine beach, laughing, holding tropical drinks under swaying palms. Ruth had posted it with a caption, "Celebrating our star's engagement in paradise." Our star. Not both daughters, not even Cheryl by name, just our star, as if there had only ever been one daughter worth celebrating. I watched the video again and again. They didn't just skip my wedding, they broadcast their choice to the world. They were so proud of choosing Cheryl that they posted it online for everyone to see. Nicole found me crying in the hotel room. "They don't get to hurt you like this," she said fiercely, wrapping me in a hug. Michael joined us, his face tight with controlled anger. "You're worth more than this," he said quietly. But in that moment, I didn't feel worth anything. I felt exactly like what my mother called me, someone at the bottom, someone whose wedding was too trivial to matter. I didn't know it then, but that video would be the catalyst for everything that came next. Because 1 week after my wedding, my father called again. And this time, he wanted money. A week after my wedding, I was trying to settle into married life with Michael. We were unpacking boxes in our Toledo apartment, building our life together when my phone rang. Joseph. My stomach tightened, but I answered. "Hello?" "Isabella, we need to talk about the loan." His voice was clipped, businesslike, as if he hadn't just skipped my wedding. "What loan?" I asked, confused. "The loan we took out for your college tuition. We need you to contribute to it. We're helping cover Cheryl's wedding expenses, and it's only fair you help out." I stood there, phone pressed to my ear, unable to process what I was hearing. They wanted me to fund Cheryl's wedding. The same sister who couldn't even text me congratulations. The same wedding they'd chosen over mine. "I'll look into it," I said, and hung up. Michael saw my face. "What happened?" When I explained, he just shook his head. "They can't keep doing this to you." That night, I pulled out every financial record from my college years. My hands shook as I went through the folders. Every loan payment was there, paid on time, every month, from my own account. I'd worked freelance gigs, taken extra shifts, sacrificed sleep to pay those loans myself. There was no debt tied to my parents. I called my bank the next morning. The representative confirmed it. My student loans were cleared years ago. Joseph's claim was a complete fabrication. I called him back, my voice steady despite the fury burning in my chest. I checked the records. My loans were paid in full by me. There is no debt. "Isabella, you must have misunderstood. Cheryl's wedding is important." "Don't contact me about trivial matters," I said, using my mother's own words. Then I hung up. For the first time in my life, I wasn't begging for their approval. I was done.
I booked an appointment for the next week. In Dr. Scott's calm office, I poured out everything. The years of favoritism, the wedding betrayal, the Hawaii video, the fabricated loan. She listened without interrupting, then said something that shifted my entire perspective. You've been carrying their expectations far too long. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, Isabella. It's self-preservation. It's reclaiming your life. She suggested I write a formal email, making my decision clear and final. You can control the message without their interruptions. That night, Michael sat with me at our kitchen table as I drafted the email. You don't owe them anything, he said. Write what you need to say. I spent hours crafting it, addressing it to Joseph, Ruth, and Cheryl. Your actions have shown where I stand in your lives. From the years of favoritism to dismissing my wedding and demanding money for Cheryl's, you've made your priorities clear. I'm done carrying the weight of your expectations. Do not contact me again. Any future attempts to reach me will be ignored. Short, firm, final. My finger hovered over the send button. Michael squeezed my hand. You're doing this for you. I hit send. After I sent the email, I blocked their numbers and social media accounts. Nicole hugged me fiercely. You're free now. But freedom felt strange. I kept expecting a call, a text, some attempt to pull me back into their orbit. None came. The silence was its own answer. They'd never valued me enough to fight for me. In my next therapy session, Dr. Scott praised my courage. You've chosen yourself. That's powerful. The days turned into weeks. I leaned into my chosen family. Michael, Nicole, George, and Diane. Michael's parents had always treated me with warmth, but now their kindness felt like a lifeline. Diane would call just to check in, not to compare me to anyone. George would show up with homemade soup when I had a rough day. This was what parental love looked like. My cousin Mary called one afternoon. She'd heard about the wedding situation through extended family. Isabella, I'm so sorry. I had no idea they'd gone to Hawaii instead. That's shameful. It's okay, I said, though it wasn't. No, it's not. They've always put Cheryl first, but this... She paused. I'm not inviting them to any more family gatherings. What they did was wrong. Her support meant more than I could express. Other relatives started reaching out too, expressing their disapproval of my parents' behavior. In Toledo's tight-knit community, word spread about the parents who'd skipped one daughter's wedding to party in Hawaii for the other. Neighbors who'd once admired my parents as perfect now whispered about their cruelty. My parents' social circle shrank as people quietly distanced themselves. Meanwhile, I heard through Mary that Cheryl's relationship with Jeffrey was strained. His family had questioned the wedding situation, finding my parents' favoritism distasteful. Jeffrey's parents value fairness, and they didn't like what they'd witnessed. Dr. Scott helped me process all of this. You set a boundary, and the world is responding. That's not your burden. It's theirs. And slowly, I started to heal. I processed this information in therapy with Dr. Scott. How do you feel hearing about their struggles? She asked. I don't wish them ill, I said honestly, but I don't miss them either. Is that wrong? That's peace, Dr. Scott said gently. That's what healing looks like. While my biological family's world unraveled, mine bloomed. Michael and I created routines. Sunday morning walks along the Maumee River, cooking dinner together, planning our future. One evening, as we sat on our couch, he took my hand. I think we're ready for the next step, he said, his eyes bright with hope. We'd been talking about starting a family. The idea both thrilled and terrified me. Could I be the mother I never had? A few weeks later, I took a pregnancy test. 2 pink lines appeared, and I stared at them in disbelief. I was pregnant. I called Nicole first. She squealed so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear. I'm planning the best baby shower ever, she declared. George and Diane were overjoyed. Diane actually cried when we told them. We're going to spoil this baby so much, George said, already planning to knit blankets. My pregnancy brought new focus and purpose. I spent hours designing the nursery, sketching patterns for the walls. Soft clouds, gentle animals, a world of love and security. At work, I landed another major contract, my designs earning praise across Toledo. Each success felt different now. I wasn't proving myself to anyone. I was building a life I loved. This baby would grow up knowing she was wanted, celebrated, enough. The cycle would end with me. As my belly grew, so did my clarity about the kind of mother I wanted to be. Michael and I attended parenting classes together, laughing at our clumsy attempts to swaddle dolls. He'd practice diaper changes on a teddy bear while I timed him, both of us giddy with anticipation and nerves. George and Diane hosted a small gathering for us one Saturday afternoon. Their home filled with warmth and laughter, so different from the cold perfection of my childhood home. Diane showed me the blanket she'd been knitting. Soft yellow and green. Neutral colors, she said, until you tell us if it's a boy or girl. It's a girl, I told them. We're naming her Emma. Mary visited often, bringing baby clothes and parenting books. She'd become the sister Cheryl never was. Present, supportive, genuinely happy for me. Emma's going to have the best mom, she said one afternoon as we sorted through tiny onesies. Nicole threw me a baby shower that brought tears to my eyes. She invited my closest friends, designers, photographers, colleagues who'd watched me grow over the years. Not a single Reed family member was present, but their absence didn't hurt anymore. It revealed what was always missing. During this time, Mary continued updating me on the family drama, though I found myself caring less and less. Joseph had apparently tried to justify their actions at a family reunion, claiming I was being overly sensitive. No one believed him. Ruth attempted to maintain her perfect family facade, posting carefully curated photos on social media, but relatives saw through it now. Comments on her posts had grown sparse. The real news came about Cheryl. Jeffrey broke off the engagement, Mary told me over the phone, her voice somber. What happened? I asked, surprised by my own lack of satisfaction. His parents couldn't get past the favoritism. They kept asking questions, and Cheryl couldn't, or wouldn't, acknowledge her role in it. Jeffrey said he couldn't marry into a family with that kind of dysfunction. I processed this in my next therapy session. I'm not glad her engagement ended, but I can't pretend to be sad. You're detached, Dr. Scott observed. That's healthy. You've separated your well-being from their choices. I don't wish them ill, but not at my expense anymore. My professional life continued to thrive alongside my pregnancy. My agency gave me flexibility to work from home as my due date approached. I designed a campaign for a major local company, my creative work earning recognition throughout Toledo's business community. Each success felt different now. I wasn't proving myself to anyone. I was building a life I loved. This baby would grow up knowing she was wanted, celebrated, enough. The cycle would end with me. When my water broke at 3 a.m, Michael sprang into action with endearing panic. Nicole met us at the hospital, camera ready. George and Diane arrived with flowers and encouraging smiles. Mary brought coffee for everyone. The delivery was long and difficult, but when I finally held Emma, tiny, perfect, with Michael's nose and my dark hair, I cried. Not from pain or exhaustion, but from overwhelming love. This child would never wonder if she was enough. This child would never compete for affection. This child would know from her first breath that she was wanted. Looking at Emma's face, I made a silent vow. The cycle ends here. The first few months with Emma were a beautiful, exhausting blur. Sleepless nights blended into days filled with first smiles and tiny milestones. Michael proved himself to be an incredible father, taking night shifts and singing off-key lullabies that somehow always soothed Emma back to sleep. George and Diane visited often, bringing meals and giving us breaks to rest. Nicole documented everything through her photographer's lens. Emma's first bath, her first real smile, the way she grabbed Michael's finger with her tiny fist. These photos would fill albums that celebrated her, not overshadow her with a sibling's achievements. Mary became the aunt Emma would actually know, stopping by with baby supplies and staying to help fold laundry while I nursed. "She has your eyes," Mary said one afternoon, watching Emma sleep in my arms. "But hopefully not your family drama." I laughed, but the comment made me think. As I cared for Emma, I found myself processing my own childhood in new ways. Rocking her to sleep, I'd think about Ruth hanging Cheryl's medals while dismissing my art award. Celebrating Emma's first real laugh, I remembered Joseph's distracted, "That's nice," when I showed him my drawings. The contrast was visceral. I couldn't imagine treating any child the way my parents treated me. In therapy, Dr. Scott helped me work through these reflections. "You're grieving what you didn't receive," she explained, while simultaneously ensuring Emma never experiences that loss. That's powerful work, Isabella. I realized I wasn't just healing myself. I was preventing intergenerational trauma. Emma would grow up knowing her worth wasn't conditional. She'd never have to earn love or compete for attention. During one session, I asked Dr. Scott something that had been bothering me. "Is it normal to feel angry all over again? Some days I'm fine, and then I'll see a mother and daughter laughing together at the park, and I just rage." "Healing isn't linear," Dr. Scott said gently. "You can feel multiple truths simultaneously. You can be happy with your life and still grieve what you lost. Both are valid." Mary brought news that made those conflicting feelings even more complicated. "Your parents tried reaching out through your Aunt Linda," she told me during a visit. "They want to meet Emma." My stomach clenched. "What did you tell her?" "That your boundaries are firm and should be respected." Mary looked at me carefully, "But I wanted you to hear it from me first." I sat with that information for days. Part of me, a small, wounded part, wanted to believe they'd changed, that Emma's birth had somehow made them realize what they'd lost. But Dr. Scott helped me see clearly. "Do you think they've changed?" she asked. "No," I admitted. "I think they want access to Emma, another grandchild to show off. And how would that affect Emma?" The answer was immediate and clear. "She'd grow up watching them favor whatever children Cheryl has. She'd wonder why Grandma and Grandpa treat her differently. I won't do that to her." I told Mary to pass along a message. My boundaries remained firm. No contact meant no contact, even with Emma. If that seemed harsh, so be it. Protecting my daughter was more important than appearing nice. The response from Joseph and Ruth never came. Their silence confirmed what I'd always known. They'd wanted access, not reconciliation. They wanted to maintain appearances, not repair relationships. "I don't miss them," I told Michael one night as we watched Emma sleep. "Is that terrible?" "It's honest," he said, pulling me close. "And honest is what Emma needs from us." He was right. Emma needed parents who were present, who celebrated her for who she was, who loved without conditions. She needed what I never had, and what I was determined to give her. Emma is 18 months old now, toddling around my home office while I work on a new design project. Her artwork, chaotic scribbles of color, hangs on the wall next to my professional pieces. Both matter equally here. Both are celebrated. Watching her babble happily to herself, secure in the love surrounding her, I realize this is what family was supposed to be all along. A few months ago, I decided to share my story. Not for revenge or to shame my parents, but to help others who've experienced similar rejection. With Michael's encouragement and Dr. Scott's support, I began writing. The words poured out. The invisible child who chased validation, the achievements dismissed, the wedding betrayed, the fabricated loan, the boundary I finally drew. But I also wrote about the healing, about Michael, Nicole, George, Diane, Mary, and Dr. Scott, about chosen family, about breaking cycles, about Emma. I framed it as a message to others. Have you ever longed for your family's love and support only to be met with coldness or rejection? I wanted readers to know they weren't alone, that boundaries aren't cruelty, but self-preservation, that family can be built, not just born. When I shared my story on a blog about family dynamics, the response overwhelmed me. Hundreds of messages poured in from people who'd lived similar experiences, other invisible children, other overlooked siblings, other adults who had to choose themselves over toxic families. They thanked me for putting words to their pain and for showing that healing was possible.
Meanwhile, the final chapters of the Reed family drama unfolded. Mary told me that my parents had become increasingly isolated. Their perfect family facade had shattered. Ruth barely posted on social media anymore, and when she did, the engagement was minimal. Joseph had apparently tried to reconnect with extended family, but most relatives kept their distance. They look older, Mary said carefully during one visit, smaller somehow. I held a complicated mix of emotions hearing this. Not satisfaction, not quite sadness, just a quiet acknowledgement that actions have consequences. 6 months after sharing my story, we celebrated Emma's first birthday. Michael grilled in the backyard while our chosen family gathered. Nicole photographed Emma destroying her birthday cake, frosting everywhere. George and Diane doted on their granddaughter, their faces glowing with joy. Mary brought a thoughtful gift, a children's book about a little girl who builds her own family. As I looked around at the people who chose me and whom I chose back, I felt profound gratitude. This was my family. This was what mattered. Later that night, after everyone left and Emma was asleep, Michael and I sat on our couch. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked quietly, cutting contact, walking away from them. I considered the question honestly. I regret that it had to happen. I regret that they never saw me. But I don't regret choosing myself. I don't regret us. I looked toward Emma's nursery. And I definitely don't regret breaking the cycle. Michael pulled me close. The next morning, I'm back in my design studio with Emma playing nearby when my phone rings. Unknown number. For a moment, my stomach tightens. Could it be them? Trying again? I let it go to voicemail. I don't need to know. I've built something they couldn't destroy. A life defined by my own worth, surrounded by genuine love, anchored in the family I chose and who chose me back. Emma toddles over and climbs into my lap. I hold her close, breathing in that sweet baby shampoo scent, and feel complete. This is what I always wanted. Not my parents' approval, but the capacity to give and receive unconditional love. I found it. I built it. And I'll protect it. For Emma and for myself. Have you ever had to choose yourself over family? Have you built your own chosen family from friends who became more than friends? Share your story. You're not alone. Healing is possible. And sometimes the family we create is exactly the family we needed all along. I'm Isabella Reed, and I'm finally home. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.